guys, it's Hannah and welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, we're going to be talking about products that I am glad that I did not buy during the time that they were like super hyped up, everyone was talking about it, and now nobody is, or it had really bad reviews now looking back on them. So I have a couple of products on my list here that I wanted to talk about today. Now, of course, if you love these products, that's on you, but I'm just glad that I didn't get them just based on the sole fact that I am perfectly fine that I did not buy them and I'm not really missing out on them, and now their time has come and gone, and looking back on them, I'm just kind of like, yeah, I really didn't need it at the time. So first thing we have was those Cover FX highlighter drops, like the custom enhancer drops. Those are $42 for a liquid highlight, and yes, they're pretty, but I feel like liquid highlights like that now are not in at all. The only liquid highlight I feel like that's very popular is the one from Charlotte Tilbury, which is in like the little puff applicator. Cream highlights are more popular, but I feel like people are just kind of going away from those super crazy metallic highlighters like how they used to be back in the day in like 2016, 2017 when they were super popular. So I'm just glad that I did not spend $42 on it. I remember I think I got in like a Sephora free sample. I had a mini one of them and I like never used it because it was just way too intense. And I remember like people were having videos where they would like put it all over their face and then like they would look literally like Tin Man and then put their makeup over and it's like you couldn't even see it. I just feel like it was a very trendy product at the time, and it definitely wasn't something that like 16-year-old me needed to be buying and spending my money on. So that I am very glad that I did not buy those. The next product I had was the Naked Basics palette. For some reason, I like really wanted the original Naked Basics palette. And then I was thinking how I wanted that palette and I was like, you know, I'm curious, like I'm just gonna look it up. It literally is like, I think it's like 4 or 5 just like plain, like almost pretty much matte white shades. And then it had like maybe a darker gray and then like a black or something like that. I'm gonna pop up pictures for everything over here. But like it's such an ashy looking palette and it definitely like would not be good for my skin just because it's so boring and it would not have even shown up. Like so many of the shades were just that really pale color where it wouldn't even have looked like anything on me. So I don't know why I thought that I really wanted that palette, because looking back I definitely don't need it, and it 100% like would not be in my collection to this day if I did end up buying it. So I'm very glad that that was something that I ended up not purchasing just because, again, it was so popular back when I was like in high school. And I didn't really have money to be spending on like all of these super high-end makeup products. So I wanted it, never got it, but I'm very glad that I didn't. Then the next product we had was the Kkw Contour Kit. Do you guys remember when this came out, how popular it was? Like so many people were talking about it. So many like big name YouTubers were like going to the event for it at the time. And then I feel like a couple of reviews started to trickle in, like more honest reviews, and people were like, what is this? Like it was pencil thin, which people said it was good because it was like for precision, but I feel like people were just trying to like, you know, hype up the product a little bit. But you remember people were rolling them up and it was literally like half an inch of product in it, and they were like, this is ridiculous. I remember people were comparing it to other contour sticks, and like those contour sticks had like this much product and the KKW one had like this much product, and people were just saying like, this is so ridiculous. They were so expensive. And I think you could only buy them in the kit. Like you couldn't just like buy your shade that you wanted. You had to buy like the contour one with the highlight one with the brush or something like that. But I remember how bad I wanted it because so many people were reviewing it. And then slowly over time, people were saying like, it's really not that good. You got like no product in it. It's okay. But I definitely did not need it. So that is another thing that I'm glad I didn't buy. Next thing that I have on my list was the Machiage Foundation. Do you remember all of those ads that so many people would do? Lots of people getting sponsored by it. Even like to this day, I feel like I still get some of like the ads on them saying like, oh, it's so cakey, oh my gosh, it doesn't match my skin. And then they like go and they're using the Machiage Foundation and it like matches their skin perfectly, blends in beautifully. But I feel like aside from those ads and from the people who are sponsored by them and doing videos like with them, no one really talked about it, and I can only imagine that's because it just wasn't a very good foundation. I feel like it would be much more popular if it was actually a good foundation because it is so talked about and so sponsored. So I am glad that I never like gave into that. I many times have like done the quiz that you have to do on the website and like got to checkout, and then I was like, this is really expensive. I don't think I need this. So I ended up just like not even getting it. Then the next product is the Nye Banana Powder. I feel like this was another thing that was really talked about. It was like very popular back in the day, again, like during the same era as like even like Tarte Shape Tape, which was like a huge thing, which I did end up purchasing. But yeah, it was like really big around that time, again, like 2016 era. And people were saying like, oh, like get the Makeup Revolution one, it's very similar. Just that type of banana powder in that packaging, specifically the Nye, because I feel like a lot of like bigger YouTubers always talked about it. I do not need to be using banana powder. I am very pale, and I was even probably more pale back in the day because now I do like my makeup a little bit different, and I would sometimes use self-tan. I don't have any on right now, but like in high school, like I really didn't wear foundation or bronzer. I just kind of did like concealer and mascara, so there was no reason for me to be putting a banana powder under my eyes because it just would not have even worked for me like even a little bit. I've never even tried a banana powder, but I can only imagine that yellow on my under eyes just would not work for me, so definitely glad that I never ended up purchasing it. I don't think it's too expensive, but it's definitely something that like I would have had to purchase from their website because it's kind of difficult, and it would have just been a big deal back then if I actually did end up wanting to get it. Then one that was a little bit more recent is the Melt Mary Jane palette. I remember when I saw the pictures of that palette like come up on Trend Mood, I thought this palette is so gorgeous. People are saying it was actually very similar to the Natasha Denona Glam palette, which I actually have here. Like it had the same kind of vibe with like these shimmers over here and just the very like cool tonedness of the palette. And that was before I had gotten this. I only just got this past Christmas time. But people were saying it was so pretty, and I was like, you know, you're right, like it is really pretty. But I was slowly waiting for people to come out with reviews on it because some people had gotten it in PR from them, I think. And so many people were saying how crumbly the shadows were, how unpigmented the shimmers were. And it was like, let's say, I'm not sure how many shades were in the palette, but let's say there were 12 shades in the palette. It's like 8 of them were not good. Yes, there were a few good ones, but the majority of them were not. And I was even looking like in preparation for this video on Sephora, like some of the reviews for some of this stuff. And it has terrible reviews. Like there's so many 1-star reviews saying like it's so crumbly, like it does not show up, it's not a good palette at all. So I'm definitely very glad that I didn't end up purchasing it because I was like this close to getting it, but then I ended up not. But the next two items I have are actually pretty similar to each other, and both are also very recent that they came out or like were very popular within the last couple of months. And that was like the Fenty powder foundation and then the L'Oreal Infallible powder foundation. They kind of got popular around the same time, but I just know that on my skin, it would not look good. I feel like people on TikTok were saying that it was really good, but then once you would go over to YouTube and check out like YouTube reviews where people were actually wearing it, like showing you how it looked close up, not just like in like a 15-second video with beauty filter on. Once people were actually showing their skin and then showing how it like wore throughout the day, it did not look good. I mean, you could use a powder foundation. Like I know like people use powder foundation, but not in the way that people were using it like in TikToks with like putting the little poof and then like smearing it on your skin for like full coverage. I just know on me that would not look good. I have normal to dry skin, more so dry around this time of the year. But I know on me that would not have worked out at all and it just would have looked very cakey. I prefer a more dewy base where those are way more matte. So I'm very glad that I did not give into either of those. Another really big TikTok one that I never purchased was the KVD Good Apple foundation. This was another one that people were reviewing on TikTok saying how good it was, how beautiful it made your skin look. And then again, once you would go over to YouTube videos, people were like, it's actually not that good. It looks good upon application, but if you're wearing it for like more than an hour or two, it really started to break up and not look good on your skin. It was patchy, it was clinging, it was just not good. I had this on my Sephora loves list for a really long time, then it was sold out for a really long time, and if it had not sold out, I honestly probably would have purchased it, but then by the time it came back in stock, I was just kind of like over it at that point. And now looking at reviews on it, again on Sephora, watching many YouTube videos of people talking about it, I'm just very glad that I did not give in and purchase that myself. Right, and then the last thing we have on my list is the Anastasia Beverly Hills like glow kits. Technically I did have one, but specifically like the one with the 4 circle pans. I had gotten one of like the Moonchild palette, I think it was, with like the crazy colors in it. I bought that at a TJ Maxx like years ago, but I always wanted like the Sugar, the Sun Kiss, I think it was called, those glow kits with like the 4 shades in them. I wanted that so badly, and I feel like those are the first like kind of step in the revolution of like highlighters. Like that's what made people want to use highlighters, because these glow kits were so popular. And then came, you know, the Becca highlighters, everything like that. But Anastasia Beverly Hills was kind of the first thing that made me curious about trying out highlighters, specifically the glow kits. And I never ended up purchasing it because it's like $40. But I'm just glad that I didn't, because now in my like everyday makeup routine, I'm not using like face palettes. I have only a couple of face palettes, and if it were to be like a big one, like how the glow kits are, I know I would definitely not use it because it wouldn't fit in my everyday makeup drawer. It would just get lost with a bunch of my extra eyeshadow palettes, which unfortunately, you know, does happen just because I have like a makeup collection like this. But I just know that it would not have been good. I probably would have decluttered it at some point, or I would have just held on to it and not used it, and eventually would have gone bad. I just feel like for me, having single highlighters is way more functional in my makeup routine, and having like a big glow kit like this, especially for it being so popular again in like 2016, 2017 when I was in high school, spending $40 on it just would not have been a good idea for me. So again, I'm very glad that I did not end up purchasing that one. That's gonna be it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed watching, and I will see you in my next one. Bye guys!